everybody, I'm Laura Trump coming to you from Studio 45 at Trump Tower in New York City. It's been 4 years since that famous ride down the escalator. And now the future of the Make America Great Again movement is on the line with the race for 2020. Joining me with his thoughts on the Trump campaign 2016 to 2020 is the son of the 45th President of the United States and my brother-in-law, Donald Trump Jr. Don, welcome in studio.
Great to be here.
Well, your brother has been here, so he did beat you, but in all fairness, he's my husband, so we had to get him in here first.
The consequences for not showing up were far greater.
Yes, for sure.
I got you.
4 years since your dad rode down the escalator. We all remember it. What do you remember about that day? Because I remember mostly that the media thought it was a joke.
Well, I remember that very distinctly, and it was funny. I mean, I remember... You know, everyone's like, well, how many months were you discussing this as a family? And I remember being like, I'm not 100% sure he was serious about it until a week or two before, you know?
Yeah.
He was definitely putting in the legwork, but, you know, it was definitely not a sure thing. And when you think about, you know, stepping away from the life that he had to do what he's doing, not that it's not an incredible honor, but, hey, he's not naive. He knew it would be brutal. He knew it would be vicious, especially if you're a conservative.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the most distinct memory I have from that one was we get into the elevator. I mean, you were there, and he just looks over right at me. He goes, now we find out who our real friends are.
Which is so true.
And, you know, honestly, truer words have never been spoken. And it just goes to show, I mean, he has a real understanding of life. I think it's why he's been successful not only in that, but in this role, and frankly, every role he's ever tried to take on, because he gets it. He knew what was coming, and that's what's important about it. He knew what was coming, and he did it anyway.
But remember he told us when we all had that dinner a couple of days before, he said they're going to come after all of us.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that very distinctly. I mean, holy moly, like none of us could have predicted how crazy it would get, but he knew.
I know a little bit about that myself. But,
you do know about that.
I know a little bit about it, but no, I mean, you know, but that's the reality. I mean, he got what it was going to be. And, you know, frankly now, you know, for me, looking back in hindsight, what he did is even more admirable that he did it not knowing, you know, meaning with full knowledge that was going to happen.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's different. There's consequences to being a conservative that you don't have.
True.
You know, as a liberal, because, you know, you don't have the media covering you.
Yeah. Well, we all know what that's about. Now, obviously, we remember the speech that he gave that day, somewhat controversial at some points.
Well, you know what's funny about that one was, it wasn't controversial at the time.
It wasn't until a couple days later.
Controversial for like 10 days. No one actually thought it was a problem because everyone in the world, including the haters in the media, recognized what he was saying was 100% accurately. Then about 10 days later, someone says, "Oh my God!" I go, "When did he say that?"
I know, because we were all there, and I was like,
I was there. No one cared for a week. What are you talking about? Like,
I know.
It was only when he started making inroads, when he started knocking some of these, you know, the anointed ones off of the stage, that's all of a sudden when they started making a huge deal about something that was true.
Well, let's actually take a look back at some of the things that he said.
Last quarter, it was just announced, our gross domestic product, a sign of strength, right? But not for us. It was below zero. Who ever heard of this? It's never below zero. Our labor participation rate was the worst since 1978. That's right, a lot of people up there can't get jobs. They can't get jobs because there are no jobs, because China has our jobs and Mexico has our jobs. They all have our jobs.
Some would argue that jobs are your dad's greatest achievement so far as president.
I think without question. I mean, you know, and again, this is not something new that he magically came onto, you know, for the 2016 campaign. I mean, the pinned tweet on my Twitter feed is literally him talking to Oprah in like the mid-'80s. Then it was the Japanese doing it to us. But the reality is it has held true forever. I mean, he has watched for decades and has been sick of basically American politicians exporting our American dream.
Right.
It's the only thing we've exported.
To their own personal benefit.
Of course, yeah. And their special interests, they're this. I mean, you know, the reality is this. In a trade war, when you import 100 times what they import from you, you win.
Right.
You just have to have the guts to stay in the game for more than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And with our political system and with weak politicians and guys that have no spine and special interests, we fold in seconds. My father has done more with Mexico in one state, one tweet.
I know.
With one tweet than Congress has done in 50 years.
Yeah.
Blanket statement. 100% accurate.
Yeah.
With one tweet, he did more than those guys did in 50 years. My father's getting it done because he actually understands how this stuff works.
He does, which people knew in 2016, which is why a lot of people voted for him. He's talked about when he announced that day, unscripted, by the way, he wanted to bring jobs back. He brought those jobs back. We did just reference, though, there were some controversial comments. Let's take a look at those.
The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. Thank you. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. It's coming from more than Mexico. It's coming from all over South and Latin America.
All right, he got a lot of flack for all of that, but the reality, Don,
It's true.
He was right.
Come on. And by the way, and everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the reality. I mean, hey, we're all for immigration. My mother is an immigrant.
Yes.
Okay? His mother is an immigrant.
Right.
Okay? His grandfather was an immigrant. But, it's a different system. When you have people being shipped up en masse, this is really significant. When you talk about millions of people coming in a year, it's not sustainable.
But the funny thing is, nobody even talked about this. Before your dad's announcement that day, he brought it up. Like you said, people were fine with it. Then, 10 days later, everybody lost their minds over it.
Because no one has any guts.
Yeah,
I always use the
100%
B
right.
word for it, right? There's a better word for it than guts. I won't say this
We'll say
on,
guts, yeah,
we'll keep that, keep it PG-13. But,
yeah, it's
the
true.
reality is everyone knows it's a problem, but no one has the guts to ever say anything,
Yeah.
okay? If you're a conservative, you're obviously then you're a misogynist. You're saying, wait a second. Numbers are numbers. Math doesn't lie. I know that there's been a push to try to make math now somehow magically racist, but it's not. But the problem is you don't have enough people that are willing to push back because they're not willing to take the heat from, Hollywood sitting behind their walls and their beautiful manicured estates, probably done by illegals for cheaper labor. No one's going to push back on that. They don't have the guts to do it. Trump was the only guy to actually do that.
Yeah. So the slogan for the campaign in 2016 was Make America Great Again. Let's look at the first time your dad actually said that.
Sadly, the American dream is dead. Bring it back. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. He's had some obstacles. They've tried to stop him at every turn. But I think most people in this country would say he's actually doing it.
He's doing it. I mean, no one talks about all-time low unemployment other than us. This is the first agenda of a president that I really remember. I mean, Reagan did some of it, but I was a little guy. Where you actually said you're going to do something and you actually deliver it, whether it's economically, whether it's, frankly, even, from a foreign policy standpoint.
Right.
Israel with the embassy, progress in North Korea, pulling out of the Iran deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the mainstream media say, oh, no, it was wonderful. We should give Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terror, $150 billion in actual cash. And I don't mean that as like a check.
Cold, hard cash.
Pallets of cash. That's a wonderful plan and policy. No one even contests that. That's asinine or insane. He's pulling out of unnecessary wars. By the way, he's taking platforms, whether it's prison reform, opportunity zones. He's taking platforms that aren't necessarily Republican or conservative dogma.
Yep.
They aren't. This isn't a conservative.
They're just the
right thing to do.
Yes.
And so he's willing to do it. How much credit does he get for it? Nothing.
But people,
and everyone else tries to latch onto it as though they did it. I mean,
of course.
When Barack Obama, remember where this economy started? I go, well, I said it was single-handedly the stupidest comment in the history of both politics and economics, which is pretty mind-blowing. But it was, because I remember during the campaign when Obama himself did his little magic wand thing. You go, Donald, there's no magic wand to make GDP above 1%.
To bring the
New
jobs
York
back.
Times, no,
None
this
of
is
it.
the new
You can't
normal.
do it. Yeah.
Well, abracadabra, boys and girls. You can do it. You just need a little brain power. You just can't entrust, the most powerful position in the world to someone who is a community organizer. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it doesn't mean anything. You need someone that actually has some guts, someone that actually has some real-world experience, not just someone who talks in beautiful, superfluous PC sound bites that everyone loves.
Sounds great.
Yeah, you need a
Not
little...
delivering a lot for
Listen,
people.
Donald Trump is like the disciplinarian parent we all needed at some stage in our lives. And that's what he's doing for the country. And it's working.
Yeah.
It's been effective. You know, in 2016, he was just like every other politician, right? You're making a promise, probably not going to deliver. Okay, fine. You know, now, when he said it, what do you have to lose? He said it, you know, he said that specifically to a lot of minority communities that are probably some of the highest beneficiaries of all of these things. They'll never, that information will never be disseminated in those neighborhoods because the Democratic Party has a stranglehold. But the reality is now, if you ask that question, what do you have to lose? The answer is a lot.
It is.
You go to a full-blown socialism, you go to where everyone should be a citizen. Everyone should have, you know, all of the illegals, we should give them free education. You're paying for it in your taxes.
Of course.
You know, but they should just get it for free.
But as we're looking towards 2020, and we see all these candidates on the other side, and we know how hard your dad has worked to get where we are today in this country, and people, I think, feel it. Even though he'll never get credit, people feel it.
Oh, yeah.
What is at stake, though? I mean, are you worried at all? Because I always say I'm not worried because of what you just said, that your dad has actually delivered on those promises. What is at stake, though, if the Democrats were to come in and take over? We know they reverse everything he's done.
Everything. Listen, you know, the record job numbers, unemployment, manufacturing coming back into... I mean, we're living our American dream again.
Yes.
We're actually the beneficiaries of the American dream, as opposed to someone in a far-off land who hates our guts, you know, being the great beneficiary of it. I mean, so the answer is there's a lot to lose. And by the way, you say, well, I mean, they have to know. It's like, I get it. You know, on paper, 2020 should be over right now.
Yes.
But it's not, because we're not playing on a level playing field.
We're not at all.
Okay, whether it's the blue check mark Twitter people, whether it's the media, when you have these kind of successes with 93% negative coverage, if Obama did 1/10 what Trump has done in terms of positive stuff, he had the worst recovery. I mean, the facts speak for themselves. The worst recoveries ever. This, that, the other. Worst jobs. Shipped it away. Doesn't matter. We lost power. We lost strength. We lost resolve. Like, all the things we've gained back, gone.
Yeah.
And like, you know, how many other Trumps are there going to be in our lifetime that will come in and say, you know what, I'm going to do it not because this is what polling number tells me, but this is the right thing to do, even if it's controversial, even if it's going to outrage, you know, the geniuses in media that, in all fairness, also haven't done anything themselves
True.
You know, to effectuate any kind of real change other than, you know, spreading their liberal crap. You know, there is a lot to lose.
Yeah.
All of that can go away. I mean, I'd say if you got a new job, if you were part of a company that's employed more people, if you've seen that kind of growth, if you've seen the regulations sort of loosening so that, you know, the government isn't telling you that, you know, to make basic decisions.
What to do.
You know, the regulations, frankly, is one of the hugest things. I mean, the left needs those regulations because they need dependence on government. Without dependence on government, they have no platform. So they need that. So they need to do that. They need to create those bureaucratic jobs that are not real jobs. They're jobs that are literally there to make real jobs harder to create. There's a lot to lose.
Yeah.
There's a lot at stake, and people have to see it. But it's not an easy fight because, again, we're fighting this thing, you know, with one arm, if not two, tied behind our back. Because the average guy who's consuming 5 minutes of news a day, 10 minutes of news a day, he sees 93% negative. He may not have the correlation that, hey, this happened. You know, he may not, oh yeah, Joe Biden's going to cure cancer. Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh,
well, how about Donald Trump, you know, got through right to try legislation.
Yeah.
There are literally people out there who were given terminal notifications. You have no chance. That are now thriving and living because of legislation that, by the way, it's not that people didn't know about it. Trump just went, let's do this, this, and this. This is why
this makes sense. Let's do this.
Why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah.
It makes sense. Oh, wow. I didn't think of that. Where was Joe for the last 50 years? I mean, you know, Joe Biden and some of these others who've done nothing but be career government, you know, and politicians talking to the American public about how the government has failed them. It's the great irony of all time.
Well, you've been in there the longest, congratulations.
It's nuts. Yeah, congratulations. So you've done nothing in 50 years, but you're going to do something different in these next 4.
It's going to change.
Magically.
Yeah.
So how about this? You know, it's crazy. I like going with the non-politician who's now has a track record of success, who's now delivered on the promises, who now has had a promises made, promises kept agenda. That's who I want continuing it, because I want to create the window for more of those guys in the future.
Exactly.
Okay, for 2024, and I want more of those guys to be able to step up. And I see half of the attack is from the DC establishment elite who've spent decades trying to claw their little niche, trying to create wealth for themselves and their buddies.
Yep.
They don't want to give that up easily. I don't blame them. If I was them, I'd do the same thing. But we're not in a fair fight. And that's why we need all these people to be in there with us, to stick by us, to get their friends, to stay active, stay vocal, stay viral, and get that message out. Again, on paper, it's a no-brainer, but we're not in a fair fight. We need them to help us be in a fair fight.
Well, it's been so fun having you reflect on all this, Don.
I haven't seen you in hours.
I know, it's literally
so
been
refreshing.
hours. So thank you. We know that we have quite a road ahead of us all, but I think we're all prepared for it, and I think we really do have the backing of the American people. But thanks for all you do every day, fighting for your dad, fighting for the country.
Thank you to everyone on here watching.
Yes, and thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
It's hard to believe it's been 4 years since that famous escalator ride, but as the 2020 race begins, it's the next 4 years that really count for the American people. That's the real news for today. I'm Laura Trump from Studio 45 at Trump Tower in New York City. Thanks for joining us, everybody.